Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Can I ask the councilors, please, to take your seats? Let me call the Malden City Council meeting to order. Would you please all rise to salute the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would you please remain standing for a moment of silence as we honor our servicemen and women? We honor those who are in uniform, and more particularly, we honor those who have given the ultimate sacrifice. Thank you. You may be seated. Will the clerk call the roll?
Kamel.
Here.
Condon.
Here.
Crow. Here. DeMaria. Here. Linehan.
Here.
Murphy. Here. O'Malley. Here. Sika.
Here.
Spatafora. Winslow. Here. Anderson.
Anderson here. Under the provisions of the open meeting law, for those of you in attendance, please be informed that Malden MATV, now known as UMA, will be recording this evening's meeting. Also, we have a couple of other people that will be recording both audio and video recordings for this meeting. First order of business. Yes, Ron. That was a City of Malden message. Tell me about the heat and warming. The message came from Ron Cochran. I thought he was going to tell me that either the microphones weren't working or something. It was the City of Malden's message. So, first order of business.
It's public comment, and I do have one letter. Dear City Council, I would like to express the opposition to file number 344-21 regarding Malden small cell antenna ordinances. I appreciate the Council's attempt to screen the antennas because they are an eyesore, but they need to be clearly visible so that people with EMF sensitivity can spot them and take appropriate caution to stay at a distance. Not only should the antennas be visible, I would like to recommend to the Council a recommendation that the antennas be color-coded according to the strength and exposure level that residents may be subject to if they were to stand at the base of the utility pole beneath the antenna of the public right-of-way. Based on readings that I've already taken in Malden, I've found antennas that produce exposure levels up to 1 million times stronger than background levels, not just parks, but in residential areas as well as that already have connectivity and host of wireless devices. That being the case, I'd recommend, number one, that the color coding be clearly visible from a distance of 75 feet from the base of the utility pole in which the small cell antenna is installed, and two, that the color coding differentiate the following approximately ranges already present: 1 nanowatt, 1 microwatt, 100 microwatt. For residents who may have already be tied to their phones and computers more than they like, being able to see color-coded antennas will help them identify low-quality getaways from screen time when they are outdoors. For people who are especially sensitive to EMF, being able to see and avoid them can help prevent a host of other complications. If the city is unable to require color coding on the antenna itself, then I would request that the council put some other identifier of its own on the utility pole, perhaps closer to eye level, to communicate Necessary information to the public about the antenna above. Regards, John Sayer, 39 Pierce Street.
So we do have a number of people that have signed the public comment sheet. As you know, we're allowing the public to speak for a maximum of 2 minutes on items that appear on the docket this evening. So we have the first person to speak is Deborah Burke. So Deborah Burke, if you'll come to the podium and state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Deborah Burke. I'm the Executive Director of the Malden Redevelopment Authority, which has an address at 215 Pleasant Street in this beautiful City Hall. Before discussing the proposal before you this evening to rewrite the city's motto, Strong Past, Proud Future, I'd like to provide the history about when, why, and how the motto came about. It traces back to the planning for Malden's 350th anniversary celebration, commemorating its founding as a town in 1649. The year-long celebration, which many of you will recall, took place from 1999 to the year 2000 and included 2 spectacular fireworks displays over the Malden River, a magnificent parade, a gala ball that filled 2 floors at Anthony's Restaurant, and numerous art displays and musical performances. I had the privilege of serving as chair of the hardworking committee of over 100 members who wanted to develop a tagline tying the city's past to its future. Honorary co-chairs, now deceased, were the beloved Joseph Crokin, former Malden City Clerk and Clerk Magistrate at Malden District Court, and Florence Burns, the first woman elected to the Library Board of Trustees, the first woman appointed to the Malden Planning Board, and the first woman president of the Malden Chamber of Commerce. The committee also included city leaders, residents, and business representatives who reached out to their networks and engaged the public in a robust campaign to come up with a motto. Ultimately, Strong Past, Proud Future was selected. You may ask, why Strong Past? Malden being the first town to vote that America declare its independence would qualify for that adjective. And why Proud Future? I think you will agree that since the 350th anniversary, there have been many, many proud moments in the city's history, including the opening, most recently, of a new police station, a new city hall, the reopening of Pleasant Street, and the entire community of leaders and residents coming together to address the many challenges brought on by this pandemic. This motto has been used for 22 years, and in my opinion, and with all due respect, I feel if it ain't broken, why fix it? Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list is Karen Cologne Hayes.
Good evening. I'm Karen Cologne Hayes. I live at 105 Wyoming Avenue. The agenda is packed full of great stuff tonight, but I want to speak in full support of Order 232.21, adding the section for inclusionary zoning. I've been an advocate for this for years before it became popular, and I'm very excited to see it come full circle. I'm also in full support of Order 40-21 to waive the rear yard setbacks in industrial districts for the Malden River. Last week, I heard the owner of Pandadosi's express his concerns, which are valid, and we should be supporting our long-term businesses partners, no doubt. However, we also need to start thinking of the river as an untapped resource. Businesses and the river can coexist. Just look at River's Edge and Assembly Row. It was hard to envision that 10 to 15 years ago. Nobody would have thought we would have this beautiful part in Assembly Row, which I've canoed up with my family many times. We need to protect our green and blue space, and we need to improve our long-term planning and visions for our city. This ordinance would set in place guidelines for the future. If we continue to water it down, it will have no teeth. No pun intended. Well, really a pun intended. I'm also here to listen to what our treasurer has to present regarding the notices posted in the Advocate on the proposed tax takings. I've heard from a few neighbors and actually a very active nonprofit organization whose mission is to provide housing to those who are at risk of losing their homes. They were unaware of being on the list until they read about it publicly. We are still in recovery from a pandemic, and I find it in poor taste to publicly humiliate people when we are still working to stabilize our economy. I do have a call and spoke with Dan Grover, who is excellent. I have a great working relationship with him, and he explained to me about the process and the lack of reporting for the past few years, which is why it was confusing to a lot of people, and it wasn't good optics to have it done in a pandemic, but I know he's doing his job and he's great at it, so we'll hear from him later. But this is also just another reason why we need to continually work to be a fully transparent city where information such as this is easily accessed. There was a recent anonymous article in the Advocate highlighting how far Malden has come in this area, which is certainly true. But this is not something we check off as a box that's complete. Being transparent is a continual process of improvement. Malden should be the leader in this area. Last but not least, I am in full support of Orders 337-21 and 338-21 for appropriation of funds from the CPC to the Patchell Park project and to the Oak Grove Community Building. Thank you. Have a nice night.
Thank you very much. Next on our list is Ari Taylor.
Hello, thank you so much. I'm here today because I want to advocate for proper procedures in regards to tax collection to avoid tax takings where possible and for better transparency with city systems and procedures. As a resident, but also a realtor, I'm extremely concerned with the proposed tax takings and the process that, from my point of view, that was put into place with them just being in the paper and little to no notification prior to that. And while I understand and respect that taxes are necessary, they need to be paid on time and properly collected, it is devastating for many residents, many of which are elderly and disabled, and several of which I reached out to personally that were unaware that their name was even in the paper, that these taxes were owed, some of which still had mortgages where the taxes were being paid through that process. Given that we do want to be such a transparent city, I'd really urge us to work together, and I'd like to ask that the Finance Committee work with the Division of Local Services to work together, maybe do a public meeting, get everybody involved, and really put it out there what we can do to keep our residents in their homes and keep them from incurring more fines and fees that they may not be aware of. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next up is Paul Size. Would you pronounce that again for me?
Absolutely. Paul Seeswerder.
Paul Seeswerder.
Yeah, 78 Glenrock Avenue.
Thank you, Paul.
I'm here in favor of, I don't know the docket numbers, but it's Patchell Park. I'm the applicant for that project, and I'm here to answer any questions, or if anybody wants to, again, engage in that process. I'm interested to see how it follows through.
This opportunity is for you to speak and to give
Okay.
your point of view. This
My
isn't
point
an
of view,
engagement back and forth with the
Okay,
council.
my point of view is I wanted to thank the city councils that did support this project, and I'm looking forward to just seeing it through. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Karen Buck Gilbert is our next speaker. Good
Karen Buck,
evening.
323 Forest Street. I just want to thank everybody for their support for our open and green and blue space. I wanted to give you a couple of updates. We're wrapping up the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program Action Grant. It's a mouthful, but tomorrow's the last day, and we're submitting our final report. And I just wanted to read a little bit of, just a couple of sentences here from our case study. So it's all about the Malden River at Malden itself. After years of industrial development and subsequent decline, Malden's portion of the Malden River is bracketed by a sea of asphalt parking lots and light industrial businesses, commercial food production, warehousing, and offices. Today, that offer little to no river access and to exacerbate water quality and surface flooding risks through poor site design and stormwater management. This project will be critical in increasing equitable community access to the river and green space for recreational enjoyment and to reduce the burden of climate impacts such as the urban heat island effect and flooding via stormwater. I walked here, so it was very hot. So I just wanted to say thank you for, because we are going to make a change for the Malden River. We're going to bring green space there and kind of push the parking lots back. I appreciate that very much. And I also wanted to let you know that the Friends of the Malden River with the Mystic River Watershed Association and Conservation Law Foundation are going to pursue National Grid and have them open up their part of the Malden River. So now on to the next step. So anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Lucy, I'll give you back that stuff for your
appreciate
records. That takes care of those who have asked to speak at public comment. Next order of business.
Paper 333-21, minutes of the meeting of June 22nd, 2021.
Do we have? So, councilors, I'm going to ask you once again, if you are making a motion, I want you to be able to push your button. I see Councilor Winslow. You've done that?
Yeah, motion to approve the minutes of June 22nd.
Thank you, Councilor Winslow. Seconded by Councilor Sika. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Those minutes have been accepted. Next order of business.
Paper 334-21, mayoral appointment. Mikeneil Paul, 10 Manomet Street, New Bedford, Mass. as Senior Center Program Coordinator. Said term to expire 3 years from appointment date, and I do have a letter from the mayor.
Would you read that letter from the mayor, please?
Dear members of the City Council, by this correspondence, I present for confirmation the appointment of Mikeneil Paul, 10 Manomet Street, New Bedford, Massachusetts, as Program Coordinator of the Senior Center, said term to expire 3 years from the date of appointment. I ask for your consideration of Mikeneil, who was recommended to me for the position by an interview panel consisting of Human Resource Director Anthony Ciccarelli, DEI Officer Bibios LaRochelle, Chief of Staff Maria Louise, and 3 representatives from the Mass Senior Action Council. Mikeneil holds a master's degree in public health and has worked for the past 3 years as the program director of an adult health center here in Malden. His varied background and experience in program planning, working with seniors, and managing a center will directly benefit our senior center members further. Further, he has experience working with culturally diverse communities and is fluent in Haitian Creole, French, and Spanish. Mikeneil will not be able to begin his new role until July 30th, given his responsibilities at his current employment. Since the City Council's last meeting before the summer recess is Tuesday, June 29th, and the confirmation process will not be completed until meetings resume in September, please be informed that I will be appointing Mikeneil to serve as the temporary interim acting Senior Center Program Coordinator until such time as the confirmation process can be completed. This will assist us with our goal of restoring Senior Center operations as soon as he is available. Again, I believe that Mikeneil Paul is a perfect candidate for the Program Coordinator position and that he will be a great asset to our team. Thank you for your consideration. Sincerely, Gary Christensen, Mayor of Malden.
Thank you, Mr. Lucy. Councilor Crowe.
I'd just like to make a motion to refer this to personnel and appointments. I think this would be wonderful to take up in September and let Mr. Paul get his feet wet and then, yeah, figure out what's been going on. So I'm really excited to refer this.
Councilor Di Maria?
I just wanted to second that. Thank you, Councilor Crowe.
Thank you, Councilor Di Maria. On Councilor Crow's motion to refer this to Personnel Appointments Committee, seconded by Councilor Di Maria, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. That appointment will be referred to the committee. Next order of business.
Paper 335-21, Outdoor Parking, Motor Realty Company, Inc., 735 Broadway, Malden, 15 spaces. It's a renewal.
Councilor Condon. On Councilor Condon's motion, we refer this petition to the License Committee. All those in favor? Do we have a? I'll second. We have a question on the referral. Let's see, Councilor.
Was the intent to do this out on the floor tonight under suspension, or? No.
I don't have any such
Okay,
request.
then we'll send it to License Committee.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak? No? Okay, on the motion to refer to this to the License Committee, all those in favor say aye. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, let's hold that. Councilor Sika has her light on.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't have a problem if you want to try and pass it on the floor. This is the lot that holds the buses that the kids are in, and if there's no issues, I don't see why there's no reason we can't vote for this on the floor.
I have no objection to voting it out on the floor. What is your pleasure?
Then I'd move to suspend docket rules
I'll second.
for purposes of granting.
On Councilor Condon's motion that we suspend docket rules for the purposes of dealing with this issue, seconded by Councilor Sika. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Rules are suspended. On
Move
My
granting.
On Councilor Condon's motion that we grant, seconded by Councilor Sika. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. That petition is granted. Next order of business.
Paper 232-21, order be it hereby ordained that Section 12 of the revised ordinances of 2020 be amended by adding Section 12.12.200 entitled Inclusionary Zoning.
On Councilor Spatafora's motion to refer this to Planning and Ordinance Committee? All those in favor?
Aye.
Well, let's back. Is there someone who wishes to speak on that? Councilor Spatafora, let me start with you.
Yeah, I think what's being chatted about, without pressing the mic, Mr. President, is refer to planning and joint planning and ordinance for a public hearing to start the process.
Okay, thank you for that correction. So on the Councilor Spatafora's motion, refer to Rules and Ordinance and the Planning Committee for joint meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. That will be referred to that joint committee. Next order of business.
Paper 336-21, order that the motto of the City of Malden be amended from the logically incorrect strong past, proud future to proud past, strong future.
On the paper, Councilor O'Malley, I think that's yours, isn't it?
That is correct. Thank you, Council President.
Councilor O'Malley for the paper.
So I wasn't aware of the history behind the motto, so no offense to the executive director of the MRA or the committee that created this. But it is something that has always bothered me personally. And since putting this on the docket, I have received dozens of similar expressions of the fact that it's always bothered people that while it may have been created by a committee, it doesn't make sense grammatically, and that proud past, strong future would make more sense because we actually, Councilor Di Maria ran it by 4 Malden English teachers who agreed. The superintendent of schools also previously expressed agreement that this should be switched around to make more sense. Because how can you be proud of something that has yet to happen? You can't. And you can be proud of your past, and you can have a strong future, which I think, as was expressed in the statements during personal privilege or during public comment, we do have a strong future ahead of us. I know Councillor Condon had some potential amendments. It sounds like maybe this is something that would be best sent to a community engagement committee to hear what the community thinks. If it was created by the community, maybe it should be amended by the community as a whole. So unless there is a will to amend this on the floor now, I would be open to a motion to refer to community engagement.
Councilor Di Maria.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor O'Malley. You know, I too would not want to offend anybody, because I actually was on the committee for the Gala Ball back then, not on the general committee. But if we were to refer this to citizen engagement, I think what would be really important is to have the executive director come and share that and have it be a public meeting, and then gather that information and bring it back to the floor for the councilors to form, you know, their final opinion. It isn't broken. I don't feel it is broken, but grammatically, from what I did learn from these educators, that it really would sound so much better if it was just upside down. So, yeah, so I would second that. We can move forward with that. Thank you.
So we've got a few more lights on. Councilor Seeker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was unaware of the history of the motto to Councilor O'Malley, but before you put a paper like this on the docket, don't you think you would have probably tried to find out why that motto even existed in the first place? After listening to Ms. Burke this evening, I don't feel that we should be changing it if it's, whether it's I can't even say the word.
Grammatically.
Grammatically, thank you. You can't say recuse,
I
and
know,
I
I
can't
couldn't
say
say recuse,
grammatically.
but I could say grammatically.
Or not. I think if that's the way that it's been, and we've had a committee for it, I think that our motto is our motto, and we shouldn't be changing it, whether it's grammatically correct or incorrect. There's things that don't always fall in the guidelines for certain things, and I think this might be one of them. I like strong past, proud future personally, and I think that it's a huge waste of time if we send it to a committee. So I hope that this paper dies on the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Murphy.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I too was on the same committee, Councilor Di Maria, that you were on, and I happen to like my 350 commemorative plate that I have in my dining room, that I believe is also in the library, that it resides in a number of different places. So I too agree with Councilor Seeker. I hope this paper feels. I think that, you know, we have embraced this motto for decades now, and I would like to see it continue as we have had it in the past. So thank you, and my commemorative plate won't have to be changed.
Thank you, Councilor. I see no new lights, so Councilor O'Malley for the second time. Councilor O'Malley?
I understand the emotional attachment, you know, but I did reach out to some members of the community who are members of the Malden Historical Commission, who are a part of the Historical Society, and they had no clue when this motto appeared either.
So you mean, so they were kind of looking out for us, I think, you know, in a time that we weren't really sure. They have not taken this vote to raise the base in a number of years. And I think, you know, again, I think what as Councilor Winslow said last week, I think going right to the top of what is allowed is the 18,000 was a little concerning because it seemed to be a chunk. And then, so we kind of sent a communication back. They had a meeting the day after our meeting. Then they had an emergency meeting yesterday to really take it up and to look at the effects. And so we did take up in fines, but we didn't really know if they were gonna stay, we're sticking with the 18%, we'll bring it back down. I had asked last week, could we go backwards and do the 3%, kind of make that balance, and they could not do that. So, and if we don't vote on this evening, it will expire, and they'll have to wait another year. And I just don't think that that is correct. Because they did send the communication earlier on, and just, again, we're all in Zoom, and things got moved around, so it is unfortunate that it is the end of the year, and we're sort of up against it, but it wasn't like they waited till the end of the year to try to shove it through. They took their steps, and just things didn't line up as easily as possible. So I'm in favor of moving forward with the vote, and I'm in favor of the paper overall.
Thank you,
Mr.
Councilor.
President.
There's a number of lights that have come on for a second time, but before I bring those persons back in, I'm going to, from the chair, from the chair, I'm going to say that I'm also in favor of moving forward on this. I think this has been something that has not been a surprise. This has been something that the council has been aware of. It was in finance, and for all the reasons that have been mentioned here, is I think that our retirees deserve our support, and I'm going to be willing to support in favor of dealing with this evening. So having said that, there are other councilors who want to speak for the second time, and I'll start with Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. President. A couple of things. In addition to the 0% last year, I also want to say, when we're talking about people on a fixed income, there's also another segment. We think of the person who retired from the city. There's also the spouse. And, what's been brought up to me a number of times in speaking with the retirement board is that when the individual who worked for the city dies, the spouse's pension is automatically reduced by a third. So we have a number of spouses who are really, struggling, especially if their significant other retired many years ago, as I believe Councilor Winslow just said, living on a very small amount of money. So as we sit here and we talk about how we can help people, I agree, we should be helping our own, and we should start here and make sure that our retirees have adequate funds to live. I also believe that it is within our purview to pull things out of committee, because I've sat here and we've done it before. And I agree that we are under a microscope by certain people in open meeting laws, but I don't want to run scared because of that. I think this is a good paper. I think our retirees deserve it, and I am all for passing this evening. We suspended docket rules to pull it out of committee. It's out on the floor, and I think we should take a vote.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor O'Malley.
So I know I look like the bad guy here, and I've kind of gotten used to taking that characterization of myself. I was just explaining why I had to vote the way I was going to vote on this. I did not ask the city solicitor to give an opinion. I did not even ask the city clerk to give an opinion. I was just explaining where I was coming from, why I have to vote the way I'm going to be voting. What I've learned from the retirement board is that they voted in March of 2021. And for whatever reason, the finance committee did not take up this paper for 4 months and took it up a week before the deadline. That is not the way you run a city of 65,000 people with a budget of $190 million. You do not put us under the gun and potentially make us violate the open meeting law. I'm not going to do it because I have my own moral and ethical obligations. If this is how we want to run the city, this is how we want to run the city. I think it is in the best interest of our community that if this ever comes up again, that we make sure that we are not up against a deadline like this. It's not fair to the retirees, it's not fair to our constituents and the taxpayers, and it's not fair to us who have taken an oath in office to follow the laws of this Commonwealth. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Condon?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm prepared to take a vote on this. Retirement board didn't do anything to drop the ball on this. They took their vote when they were supposed to take their vote. Now, what created the situation where it didn't come before us the way it should have, okay, put us in a difficult position right here. But all the years I've served on the city council, if I've ever seen a paper, and there's been many papers on the last meeting, suspend docket rules for purposes of adopting a financial paper that had to be done that night, all right? And this paper before the council, if I've ever seen a paper that should be classified as an emergency paper, unless we could meet 2 days from now on a special meeting, but that puts us in July 1st. So we're totally boxed in here, and I believe that we should take this vote, because that retirement board didn't do anything wrong, and the finance committee didn't do anything wrong. You did it as fast as you could. You disagreed with the vote of the retirement board, which is our right to do, and that's what was done. And you got it up here as fast as you could. It was just a question of how do we know that you were gonna vote to approve it and put it on the docket on that presumption. So I believe, we should vote this tonight. If you're in favor, vote for it. Step up. If not, step back.
Thank you, Councilor. I'm going to ask Mr. Lucy if he'll give us his opinion now.
So in Robert's rules, under suspend the rules, it says when an assembly wishes to do something during a meeting that it cannot do without violating one or more of its regular rules, it can adopt a motion to suspend the rules, interfering with the proposed action, provided that the proposal is not in conflict with the organization's bylaws or constitution, with local, state, or national law prescribing procedural rules applicable to the organization or assembly, or with fundamental principle of parliamentary law.
So your opinion?
You can suspend rules. And I certainly appreciate the city solicitor's concerns, because I always have the same concerns.
But your opinion is that we can suspend rules?
I do.
Okay. Madam Solicitor, would you like to add anything to that?
Mr. President, you certainly can suspend the rules. You just can't suspend the open meeting law. So we're talking about two distinct things. To curb this in anticipation of it coming before you because it was on the committee agenda, it should have just been listed as potentially being discussed, or you could have passed over it on the agenda. To curb this, you could call an emergency meeting and post an agenda with this topic. So the law allows you to address emergency topics, but the law also requires you to amend your agenda as soon as you become aware that the item may be discussed. So that's what the law requires. So I know that there's a rule in place that allows you to do this, and I know that this is typically done, but as I look at your docket, that it's not specifically listed on your agenda to potentially be taken up, and that's how you would address it in accordance with open meeting law. So the other option is what Councilor Condon said, and you could, before July 1st, call an emergency meeting of the membership with it docketed. I tell you this because this council has been found in violation of the open meeting law, and I would not want to steer you in a direction where that's not to say that the purpose behind what you're talking about and what you've already discussed at length for the past 10 minutes isn't a laudable purpose or important goal. That's not what I'm here to stand in the way of. I'm just here to tell you, you called me up for a legal opinion, and I'm here to tell you the legal opinion would be cured in a different way. You can still post this and call an emergency meeting of the council to get this taken care of if it's an emergency, like Councilor Condon suggested.
Point of information?
Councilor Condon, state your point of information.
You say we can post it, but if we post it and 2 days. The next meeting would be July 1st. Could we post it so the meeting would be June 30th, which is,
Because you're addressing an emergency circumstance, and that's really what you should be doing. So, to cure the issue of the violation of open meeting law by not having it on the agenda as a topic being discussed.
so we could post it for tomorrow night?
As soon as you practically can, because you addressed it in committee, and you have an issue with it being addressed tonight, because it's not on your council docket.
Let's take a breather.
Mr. President?
So, councilors, it sounds like the city clerk is saying to me that we should be listening to what our solicitor is saying and suggest that we do an emergency meeting so that we can pass this, and I'm certainly ready to do that. If someone wants to make that known. Councilor Seeker, you
I have a quick question. So say we postpone it till tomorrow, are we in open meeting law violation for even discussing this now?
If you're talking about procedurally how to address this, you wanted to pull it out of committee, one of your colleagues.
We already voted to suspend rules to bring this paper out. We already voted on it.
Okay.
So should we not have done that?
You're addressing the issue now. You called me up here to give you an opinion.
I'm just
So
wondering if we're already in violation and we're gonna get an open meeting law violation anyway, then.
You may even get it tomorrow because you called an emergency meeting to take care
We're
of
gonna get it
a
either way, so why not just vote on the paper tonight, not have an emergency meeting tomorrow, and we're gonna have to be back in here in 10 days, because this is how this is working lately. Every meeting we have, we're getting an open meeting law violation, whether it's something that we really did violate or something that somebody thinks we violated. That's all I'm saying.
So I'm looking for some motion.
May I ask a question?
Go right ahead, Councilor Murphy.
Because I've just heard a couple of councils say they might have other commitments. Is this something that we can do by Zoom tomorrow night so that we could maybe get a better attendance? I'm available, but I'm not sure if everybody else is, and we need 8 votes.
I'm available.
No?
I'm available.
Is everybody?
Well, why?
I don't know.
If we're available, why?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm available to come in. That's not a problem. I just want
Can
to
I have a show of hands of who's available for tomorrow night?
Are you available?
Yeah. Anyone? So we have enough votes for? 1, 2.
You need 2/3 of this vote. We need 2/3?
How many votes do we need?
How many votes do we need to pass this?
8 financial paper.
Just make sure. Because if there's 2 missing, 1 recused.
Well, no, we don't have enough votes.
Councilor Spatafora.
I was gonna make a motion to pass.
I second that.
Okay, you have made.
I don't know it's a crapshoot, right? In my opinion, we talk about emergencies, we talk about taking care of people. Well, this is stepping up right now. If there's gonna be an open meeting, violation, we get one a week.
Right.
I'd rather make sure people get a little bit more money in their paycheck for the coming years than worried about an open meeting law violation. This is as transparent as it gets. I don't know how we got to this situation. It's not time to analyze. Let's just do it now. Take the vote.
Any other discussion on that? Councilor Seeker seconds that motion. Is there any other discussion on Councilor Spatafora's motion that we take this up now and seconded by Councilor Seeker? No further discussion. The clerk will call the roll.
This is to pass.
This is a vote to
Vote to pass.
It's to vote,
It's to vote.
to approve.
We're voting on the paper.
We're voting on the paper.
Kamel.
Yes.
Condon.
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 Yes.
Crow. Yes. Linehan.
Yes.
Murphy.
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley. Seeker.
Yes.
Spatafora. Winslow.
yes.
Anderson.
Anderson, yes. Paper's passed.
Thank God.
Next order of business. Let's get back to our docket.
Paper 243-21, resolved that the city clerk prepare and present to the city council a hard copy and digital copy of Granicus and all ordinances coming out of committee. This would offer the councils as well as the community preparation time for public comment in review prior to any votes or amendments on the floor.
That's Councilor DiMaria for the paper.
Yikes, okay. Thank you, Mr. President. So this is a resolve, and I have spoken with Clerk Lucy about this. Basically, what I'm asking is, especially with ordinances that are vetted through committee, that a lot of times they come to the floor, and then we move forward to make amendments on it. So I think it would be really helpful for all of us, as well as electronically, if the ordinance that is actually passed through committee is presented to us, so we can actually have a visual and look at it, and then as we move forward with our amendments, we can have the most updated version of our city ordinances. So I don't know if the clerk wants to say anything to that, or we just move forward. Thank you.
Councilor Linehan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through the chair, I had a question for the sponsor. Is the intent that as things are updated, as they move through committee, that the drafts would be put in Granicus? Because a question I do get a lot is folks trying to follow something as it evolves, and it's the original, the original draft is in Granicus, but it doesn't, you can't see the changes as the committees discuss it, and so folks trying to follow it, wanting to come to maybe the last meeting and understand what's been changed so far that's being voted on. Is the intent to include that as well, or am I getting too much in the weeds on what you're trying to do?
I thank you, and I think that would be great, but I think especially with our ordinances, there's so many adjustments and amendments that I think what the final amendmented ordinance that comes out of committee that is put on Granicus, right, and then we're here on the floor, we see what the committee voted on. And as we move forward on the floor, as people are, oh, I make a friendly amendment, I do this, I do that, then we have something visual. So
I gotcha. I think that's still really helpful. I think that's a good
Okay.
idea. Thank you.
Mr. Lucy, did you want to respond?
No, I just wanted to, with Councilor DiMaria, when she mentioned that, as you know, what happens, and I typical, say an ordinance meeting like last Wednesday night, but for those with the ordinance committee that were there was 10 amendments to that thing. So it's hard to, so in Granicus, you wouldn't be putting all those amendments, but what Councilor DiMaria is looking for, within a reasonable time, we could do, and that's an extreme one, but sometimes in ordinances, I know Councilor Kamel was there, he knows, it would be helpful that if you saw the changes which we had, certainly a few days later that we had it all organized. So I think that's what she's trying to get at, if I don't want to speak for you, but.
Were you finished with your question, Councilor DiMaria? Were you finished with your question?
No.
Okay, go right ahead.
I just wanted to suggest that the final draft coming out of ordinance to the floor to be voted on, that we have a hard copy of that, and it is on Granicus. So I just think it's helpful for all of us administratively. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
That's my motion.
Thank you, Councilor. We've got a few more lights on. Councilor O'Malley?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I agree with Councilor DiMaria and would love to be a co-sponsor. I think that the two most helpful things would be the original paper that is submitted, have that put in Granicus, for instance, in ordinance tonight. I did not submit language, I just submitted the general ordinance change in terms of the title and wanted to workshop that in ordinance. But if there is language, that should be put in as kind of like the original. And then at the end of that process, if that's amended, there should be a second one, final out of ordinance, which is put into, or whatever committee, put into Granicus, and then that is referred out to the full council where potentially more amendments will be made, and underneath the general meeting here, when you click into it, it shows what was finally passed. That's the whole real beauty of Granicus, and it's really come in handy with some of the really difficult conversations that we've had to have in terms of what was legislative intent, when were things amended. The CPC committee, we were able to really get down into the weeds and really understand how the CPC committee was formulated. I do support this, and I think it is beneficial for the public record. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Winslow?
Yeah, no, I'm very supportive of this too. I mean, for me, it's very important as we're going to enroll an ordinance to have a copy. I mean, I would like to see that in Granicus so I can be prepared for the meeting, and it's also helpful to have a hard copy if there are some amendments coming forth. So I'm very supportive of this, and I'm surprised it's not our best practice right now, but yeah, it's good that we will be doing this going
So we got a motion and a second on that motion?
Yeah.
All those in favor say aye?
Say aye.
Aye, opposed say nay. That the resolve is passed. Next order of business.
Paper 285-21, order be hereby ordained in Chapter 2, Section 6.08.070 of the revised ordinance of 2020 be amended by adding social and economic empowerment applicants and designee minority business-owned applicants for a retail cannabis license.
Councilor Spatafora.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do want to make, there's going to be a couple little tweaks to this for the public, speaking of Granicus and editing in this. So there was some discussion with the Cannabis Commission. It was, I think, our first or second meeting back here. And as everybody in this committee knows, and maybe the public not giving a year reprieve, we didn't have all the members of the committee, and we were running around a little frantically, and there was an ordinance meeting in here and finance in there, and it started late because we didn't have a quorum. The paper that was discussed and ultimately passed out of ordinance mentioned 51% ownership and some other details, and then it was referred to the full committee, which was then amended by Council O'Malley, made a motion to change it to one or the other, and they could do one or more, and that was fine. But we didn't really discuss at that last council meeting the 51% in the minority ownership for the resident. So what I would like to do, just to make sure we get our I's dotted and our T's crossed, we want to make sure that ordinance reflects, what we're passing tonight reflects what was discussed in ordinance. Now, we went back and watched the tape and listened to it. It was definitely discussed, but we don't want, and when I say we talked to Chairwoman Janelle DeVitz. These are very sought out licenses in any community. We just would not want somebody fighting us because we were not as clear and concise as we could have been what we're passing. So my motion first would be to unenroll this paper, then we can make an amendment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then as we finish, I want to make sure and then we would amend the paper to include the language that was ultimately there, so we're not making any changes, and then make a motion to re-enroll. Is everybody clear there?
Yeah.
Okay, so I make the motion to unenroll the paper, Mr. Clerk?
We got that, and we have Councilor O'Malley, are you seconding that?
Just seconding it.
Okay. I don't see any of the lights, so on the motion to unenroll, made by Councilor Spatafora, seconded by Councilor O'Malley, the clerk, we don't need a roll call. We should have a roll call? Okay. Clerk will call the roll.
Kamel. Yes. Condon. Yes. Crowe.
Yes.
DiMaria.
Yes.
Linehan.
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes.
O'Malley. Yes. Seeker.
Yes.
Spatafora.
Spatafora, yes.
Winslow. Winslow, yes. Anderson.
Anderson, yes. So that paper has been unenrolled. Councilor Spatafora, you have another motion?
Do you want to make the motion? Go ahead. Council Crow's going to make a motion.
Councilor Crowe on the motion.
So, I'm gonna, okay, so I'm gonna read it as it's been written out. For at least one of the licenses, preference shall be given to an applicant that is at least 51% of the business is owned by a resident of Malden, who has been a resident for at least 5 years, or to the applicant that would qualify for a Cannabis Control Commission Economic Empowerment Priority Review, or the Social Equity Program, or a minority-owned business as designated by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I will send that to you.
Okay, we have a motion there. We have Councilor O'Malley.
I'm just seconding that motion.
Second that motion. The clerk will call the roll. Councilor DiMaria, did you want to say something?
Yes, just one quick question to the sponsor. So does that, out of the 5 licenses that we will have in Malden, does that designate one for economic and one?
No, at least one of the 5 licenses are from one of these pools. So it's not, otherwise we would be only, there's 5 different areas here, so that would take up all the licenses. So at least one of the 5 licenses, they have to be either or. Either the social and equity program, either a minority-owned business, 51% of the business owned by the Malden resident, who would qualify for the Cannabis Control Commission Economic Empowerment Priority Review. So it could be more than one of the licenses, but at least one of the licenses are reserved for one of these groups.
Mr. President, just a point of, this was also, Councilor DiMaria, this is exactly what was discussed at that ordinance committee where Councilor DeVitz, Chairperson, Councilor DeVitz actually requested this language be added from the Cannabis Committee. And what we're reading is actually something that she sent us to make sure that we added it exactly the right way. Again, it was the first meeting back in ordinance, we discussed it here, and then when we brought it out last week, I think Council O'Malley made a point, that language wasn't there, it was implied, but given the very nature of these licenses, we do not want to give any loopholes or make a mistake where maybe a candidate doesn't get it and they get sued. So we're just making sure we're dotting the i's and crossing the t's. So this was something that the Cannabis Commission wanted, and we're just adding that language there, if that helps, Council.
No, it does. Thank you, Counselor. I just hope that's enough. That's all I will say. Okay. I just hope it's enough to cast the net wider for our diverse community. So.
And again, I think to Council Spatafora's point, this is what the discussion we had in ordinance, but also what the Chairperson DeVitz said, and then wanted to make sure that the language was absolutely the way it should be. So she sent the language
Came out of committee,
to make sure.
Okay.
Councilor Seeker.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilor DiMaria, it's extremely difficult for an applicant to qualify for the economic empowerment. How long have we been doing applications now?
It's a state definition. It's a state definition too.
It's the state has to grant that person, so that's why I think way back when we started this ordinance, I have always supported at least one of these licenses being for a minority or a social economic empowerment group. So I think having it state at least one, but it could be more, we already have 2 that we've granted. So this is only for an additional 3 at the moment. So the 3 could be a minority, it could be a 51% ownership of a Malden resident for at least 5 years. It could end up falling in that same way. It's just to make sure that we have at least 1 license that has this particular qualification. So I think it's just some language difference, but we've always had this.
It is casting a
We've
wider
always
net.
had this,
Right.
from what I remember. So just a little clarity. Thank you.
So we've got a motion, and the motion has been seconded.
I'll second.
The clerk will call the roll.
Kamel. Condon.
Condon, yes.
Crowe.
Yes.
Di Maria. Linehan. Murphy. O'Malley.
Yes.
Sika.
Yes.
Spatafora.
Yes.
Winslow. Anderson.
Anderson, yes.
So now I need a motion to enroll, Mr. President?
On the motion to enroll, do we have a second on that
Second.
enrollment?
Second.
I don't see anyone's button pushed.
My button's already on.
I'm already live. I couldn't.
Counselor O'Malley is.
I will defer to Counselor Sika for the second.
Counselor Sika, you want to defer to Counselor Sika as the second to that motion. Clerk will call the roll.
Kamel. Condon. Crowe.
Yes.
Di Maria. Linehan. Murphy. O'Malley.
Yes.
Sika.
Yes.
Spatafora. Winslow. Anderson.
Anderson, yes. Counselor Crowe.
Make a motion to suspend docket rules for the purposes of ordaining.
On Counselor Crowe's motion to suspend docket rules, seconded by Counselor O'Malley, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. On suspension of docket rules, the clerk will call the roll.
Kamel. Condon.
Condon, yes.
Crowe.
Yes.
Di Maria. Linehan. Murphy. O'Malley.
Yes.
Sika.
Yes.
Spatafora. Winslow. Anderson.
Anderson, yes. So those rules have been suspended.
So I would move to ordain, and everyone should know that this needs 9 votes.
On Counselor O'Malley's motion to ordain,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Kamel.
Seconded.
Did I pronounce that right? Clerk will call the roll.
Kamel. Yes. Condon. Crowe. Di Maria. Linehan. Murphy. O'Malley. Sika.
Yes.
Spatafora. Winslow. Anderson.
Anderson, yes. That motion is passed.
Ordained.
Next order.
Paper 40-20, order be it hereby ordained that Section 12.16 dimensional controls of the revised ordinances of 2020 be amended by revising Section 12.16.050 as to waiving rear yard setbacks in industrial districts by deleting reference to rivers or water courses.
So this is on Counselor Spatafora's motion to ordain this ordinance? Okay. It's going to be Counselor Crowe's motion to. You better write that down.
Oh, yeah, great, okay.
Yeah, let me just say for the audience, because I'm hard of hearing, I have to get the city clerk to, he can't whisper in my ear and tell me what he. Craig needs to recuse. Recuse. I got it this time. On Councilor Spatafora's motion to recuse. We need a second for that? Sure, Councilor Sika seconds that. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Councilor, you are recused. I'm getting better with that word, huh? Okay. Now, so the paper is coming forward by Councilor Crowe. So on Councilor Crowe's motion to ordain the ordinance as amended, seconded by, is that Counselor Camel?
What,
You're first.
so I don't want to throw a monkey wrench in, but had a conversation a little earlier before the meeting with City Planner Romero. I don't mean to call you out, but she did express a concern that there's a possibility, and I know Councilor O'Malley may have brought this up, that the language we use, which was very happy with it last week, but there could be some concerns with it. So if it were okay with the city planner and with the president, could we ask her to?
Ms. Romero, would you please come to the podium?
Thank you, Michelle Romero, City Planner. I believe that question about the language is with the next paper 41.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
Paper 40, I think, was in order as amended, but I
Okay.
will be here for that.
I
Thank you.
apologize.
Okay.
I will second that motion then. I apologize. I was seeing them as the same thing, sorry.
Back to Counselor, so Counselor Crow's motion.
Motion to ordain.
To ordain, seconded by Counselor Camel. The clerk will call the roll.
Camel.
Camel, yes.
Condon. Crowe.
Yes.
Di Maria. Linehan.
Yes.
Murphy. O'Malley.
Yes.
Seeker. Spatafora. Winslow. Anderson.
Anderson, yes. So there we go, that's passed. Next order of business?
Paper 41-21, order, be it hereby ordained, Section 12.12, use regulation of the revised ordinances of 2020 be amended by adding new Section 12.12.200 to include Malden River site plan review.
So this is Counselor Crowe for the committee, huh?
Yes, and this is a paper that actually think that Councilor Camel was commenting on and wanted to hear from Ms. Romero.
So
So
Counselor.
I'll give it over to Councilor Camel.
Counselor Camel is
yeah.
seconding.
Well, I do want to make a comment. I'll make a five-second here synopsis, is that we made an amendment last week to include the possibility of waiving some of the 5% limit for the cost of permitted work. We made an exception for energy efficient work. However, the language may not be specific enough to existing buildings, and there's a chance that it could be thought to, could be interpreted to possibly be an entire energy efficient building. So I don't know if that.
So you've seconded the motion, so it's out on the floor. So now you can also ask that Ms. Romero can come and address some of the concerns.
I seconded the motion to have the paper.
Yep. Here we go. Ms. Romero, would you please?
Thank you. Yeah, it was just since you discussed the amendment last week and you made that on the floor, and I did have the chance to discuss it a little further with Nelson Miller, the building commissioner, who isn't here tonight. But I raised the concern to you as well as to a couple of the other counselors that it may actually create quite a loophole that could exclude a lot of development in that area. It's more than just, I think initially you were talking about energy efficiency improvements.
The intent was an existing upgrade.
Exactly.
Upgrade
but
to an existing building.
I think the way it's written is arguably if they constructed an addition, a new building was constructed, if it was LEED certified or it complied with energy, the whole project will be exempt. It could create quite a loophole. I would call it a loophole. It could create quite an exemption, so then this ordinance would not be triggered. So I was just suggesting that you have a maybe better sense of exactly what that language will exclude. I know Nelson Miller had given you a couple examples, but that was, just wasn't anything real detailed and specific, but I'm sure your intent is not to create an exemption that could be interpreted and you end up with no projects or very few projects actually ever triggering this ordinance. So I was recommending perhaps you can reconsider that amendment at this time.
So I would say,
Not including it would be my opinion, but,
Yeah, so if I may, I would say like there's kind of two courses.
So why don't we, if we're gonna make some amendments, why don't we make a motion to unenroll?
Well, can we just make a comment on it before
Okay.
we make that,
Sorry. Yep.
make that motion? So just a comment of opinion, so I think there may be two ways we can go if we were to amend it. Do we sharpen the language to existing buildings, or do we just go to something like 10%? So then I'll leave that to the debate of the body before we jump on that.
Okay, got a couple of lights on here. Councilor O'Malley?
Well, this is unexpected. I would say that I'd be interested in seeing how the rest of the council feels. I would be okay with if we want to go to 10%, but do know that if we do unenroll, we would need to suspend the rules, and in order to enroll and ordain in the same night, you need 9 votes, which we just did. So we would want to be really sure that we're all okay with changing the direction. But if it looks like a new building can be built and not have it to comply with this, then I think that really does defeat the point of the ordinance. And we were really trying to more so not discourage existing property owners from updating their HVAC system or things like that. So I'm wondering if maybe the higher threshold eliminates that loophole that you described.
Well, let's have some more discussion on that. A couple of the lights on. Councilor Winslow.
I mean, I think another approach would be to pass it as is and then, work to have that language, and we could put that to rules and ordinance and a planning. I mean, I don't think anybody's gonna build anything in six months or whatever. I mean, it could be a short loophole, but I think it's something we could close, a little more work. I don't think tonight, bouncing around, I don't think we could create another loophole. So maybe we just, to me, my suggestion would be go forward and then, work to close the loophole in the fall. That would be, I just don't know if we can figure out the loophole tonight, so.
Thank you, Councilor.
So make a motion to ordain.
Councilor Murphy?
I was just going to say that, I liked giving people the opportunity to bring energy efficiency into their building to offset environmental issues. I think that's a really good course of action for us to take, but never would I want it to preclude a new building from following the guidelines. So I am open to coming back to passing it tonight and coming back to the table to tighten it up, or I'm open to the 10% and then continuing to work on it. So I think, we do need to pass this evening. So whichever way, the majority wants to go, I will support.
Okay, so someone who hasn't spoken yet, Councilor DiMaria.
Thank you, Mr. President. Is there any way that the clerk might have that original enrolled ordinance to read out to us tonight?
Not with me, no.
No. Okay. Sorry, I don't mean to embarrass you. Okay. Thank you.
Councilor Kamel.
I would second Councilor Crow's motion.
So Councilor Crow's motion is
To ordain. And
to ordain. Seconded by Councilor Kamel. We have another light on. Councilor O'Malley.
I just wanted to give the city planner a last opportunity to speak.
I'm sorry, I just want to make sure it was clear, I might have misspoke. It potentially will apply not just to new buildings, but renovations, additions, any improvements to the building that could be considered to be being done to comply with the energy code. So it's not just that somebody might build a new building in the next 6 months. So I just want to make it clear, it could have broad application to just about, to a variety of work that are done to any of the properties, whether they're upgrades, renovations, anything. So I just wanted to make sure you understood that it could potentially. Thank you.
Councilor Winslow, did you have something else you wanted to add?
Yeah, no, I think in part that's what our intent is. I think partly this was reaction to the Piantadosi coming in and talking, and I think the concern was, they have some energy efficiency improvements they want to make on the existing building, And if we didn't have this exemption, they might have to tear down half their building or remove a lot of their parking. I think that was kind of the sense of the council was we weren't, so there are, I think we were wanting to exempt those kind of things to some extent. And I think it's just, we just didn't want to exempt a whole building kind of thing. I definitely agree on that. I don't think we thought of the leads, or a whole new building thing. I don't think we want to exempt that. So I think working on it, but I think our intention was to, not prevent someone from doing some substantial energy upgrades. And I think, that's, I think that was some of our intent. So but I think we will have time to even tighten up that loophole. That's my thought.
Council Linehan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm in favor of moving it forward without the amendment. I think we want the river access and we want energy improvements, and there are substantial tax breaks already out there for businesses to do that. With respect to the businesses that are already existing and upgrades that they may have had in mind, we want both things and we should be able to get it. So I think we shouldn't hold this up, and let's move it along.
Okay. Councilor O'Malley, did you want to speak again?
Sorry, I apologize. I was intending on speaking after the city planner, but I didn't want to interrupt. So I'm okay with moving forward. I just want to make sure everyone is aware of what the ramifications are potentially. So right now, if anyone was to submit a building permit to do something, they are kind of held in abeyance because we're in this process. But once we pass it, if someone was to submit, plans to the building department for a new LEED certified building, they would be exempt from any changes that we make subsequent to the enactment. So I'm okay with moving forward. I would also be okay with changing it to 10%. I guess the only question would be, what would we change it to? I think the ordinance that was drafted by the mayor's team is good. I think that an amendment would be pretty simple, just making it 10% or 15% even. But this does create a rather large question mark, which is, especially when your support staff is saying that, who will have to interpret it, that kind of raises a red flag for me, that maybe it is worth the amendment, but I am okay with either direction.
Councilor Kamel.
Yeah, so I completely understand Councilor O'Malley's point there. I just, from I guess, parliamentary standpoint, I think, has it already been, I think it's already been seconded, so I think at this point it needs to get a certain threshold of votes, or
Well, it's been seconded, but we're still having discussion on this. We don't have to vote on it yet.
But we still eventually have to have that vote as opposed to, oh, well, okay, yep.
Any other discussion on what's before us here? Councilor Crowe.
Since my light is still on. I do think we should move forward with this. We don't want it to expire as well, which it will be on July 13th, and we don't want to run that risk. But I do think, Councilor Winslow's point into Michelle Romero's point, we really kind of need to look at that and make it, amendments as quick as we possibly can if we really need to tighten up that language. But again, if we jump to something else, it creates another loophole, it does something else, and that's what happens when there's amendments on the floor, it's sort of thrown out there. So I think we move forward with what we do have, and then tighten up any of those loopholes going forward.
I don't see any other hands being raised here, so we have a motion and a second that we move forward with what we have. The clerk will call the roll.
Kamel. Condon.
Yes.
Crowe.
Yes.
DeMaria.
Yes.
Linehan.
Yes.
Murphy. O'Malley.
Yes.
Sika.
Yes.
Winslow. Anderson.
Anderson, yes. So that passed by the City Council. Next order of business.
Paper 344-21, Committee Report Rules and Ordinance. Paper 67-21, be hereby ordained City Malden Revised Ordinance of 2020, Section 11.24.020, siting and installation of wireless communication equipment. And there was
No,
You
you don't
need
have
me
to
to
read
read
all
all
that.
that, or?
That's Councilor Lenahan for the committee?
Deputy
Oh,
Council.
okay. Councilor Spatafora for the committee. Oh, I'm jumping ahead of myself here.
Which one are we on? Wireless communication? Yeah. So, thank you, Mr. President. This was discussed back in ordinance, I believe, probably at this point about almost a month and a half ago. Some updated changes to our 5G wireless ordinance. As we've become a little bit more familiar with some of the requirements, some of the needs and necessities, Council Linehan has been the chairman of that committee that reviews these, and we've been getting dozens at a time frame. And with any type of new technology or new ordinance, you have to make sure you update them properly. And so this is just a couple what we feel are minor changes to the 5G wireless communication ordinance. It was sent to legal for review. That's what we're waiting for. It was then brought back to the full council. It was brought. Council O'Malley asked us to send it to the legal department for review. It went back to the ordinance committee and then referred out. So we're hoping to get this out favorably tonight. I believe Council Winslow might have an amendment or just to make a quick change to something that might have been reflected. So I'll just yield the time to Mr. Winslow, Mr. President, if you don't mind.
Thank you. Councilor Winslow.
Yeah, I know this, I guess, back in March, on March 9th, at the Rules and Ordinance Committee meeting, we made an initial amendment. And then last week's meeting, which I couldn't attend because of the wake I was attending, I had sent some language along that wasn't complete, and it wasn't consistent with what the committee had adopted in March. So I guess I would make a motion to amend the committee recommend. Have we accepted the report yet? I guess that's the first thing, but.
So on Councilor Spatafora's motion to receive the committee report, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Committee report is received. Councilor Spatafora has just made his report of the committee. Yes,
And so I know the committee, reported it out favorably, but I'd like to make a motion to amend it with adding this at the end of section F. And this is just what was, the amendment that was in the March 9th meeting, so there's a little inconsistency, but that the 8-foot work zone allowance may be reduced or waived by the permitting authority if the applicant establishes that installing a new taller pole will not provide sufficient clearance. There is no other nearby available pole or location that can adequately serve the coverage area of the proposed small cell antenna location. The lack of such antenna would prevent service in a significant portion of the coverage area. The nearest building will be outside the diameter of the small cell 100% public maximum permissible exposure limit. Period. If the 8-foot allowance for work and repairs is reduced or modified, the applicant shall recertify the exposure limits of the location small cell antenna every 5 years. So that was something I didn't, make sure was in the final version that the committee passed last week.
Do you need his writing on that?
And so that's in the March 9th minutes, and I'll send that along. But yeah, that's okay. So it was something the committee actually adopted in March 9th, but in last week's discussion, I don't think that got forward into the committee report. So just wanted to make sure and make sure that was.
So that's the amendment.
Yeah, we just want to, we just say to be safe and say, I'm making a motion to amend because I'm not certain if technically the committee report included that.
So I'll second that motion, Mr. President.
Councilor Spatafora seconds that a motion to amend. Any, I don't see any lights on. On the motion, clerk will call the roll.
Kamel. Yes. Condon. Condon, yes. Crowe.
Yes.
DeMaria. Yes. Linehan.
Yes.
Murphy.
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley.
Yes.
Sika.
Yes.
Spatafora.
Spatafora, yes.
Winslow.
Winslow, yes.
Anderson.
Anderson, yes. So that paper has been amended.
So make a motion to enroll as amended.
on Councilor Winslow's motion to enroll as amended, seconded by Councilor Seeker. Clerk will call the roll.
Kamel. Condon. Crowe. Di Maria. Linehan. Murphy. O'Malley. Seeker. Spatafora. Winslow. Anderson.
Anderson, yes. So that paper has been enrolled.
Ordain the paper this evening, is that okay, or what?
So we're going to suspend rules in order to, on Councilor Winslow's motion that we suspend docket rules, seconded by Councilor Seeker. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Rules are suspended. Councilor Linehan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I apologize, I haven't been able to attend a lot of the meetings where these have been discussed, but did you say it had undergone legal review already, or were we still awaiting that?
Let me,
Okay.
Councilor Spatafora, your response?
Yeah, all the amendments that were passed in ordinance under the request by Council O'Malley went to legal, came back to ordinance committee. All were approved, except there was one we did not. We admitted to send to legal, which was on tree replacements. We stayed away from that one.
Okay.
And then we referred it out of committee. This has been about 2 months. We waited for legal review, so they've all been reviewed by.
So the tree thing is not?
No, they're right in the next, if you actually look at 1 through 5 there,
Yeah.
it's not in there. That's the one not in there.
Okay, I must be misunderstanding the way it's laid out. That's fine. That was actually my concern, was that we'd be opening ourselves up to a legal
Nope.
challenge with the tree. Okay, thank you. I'm all set then.
Thank you. Councilor Di Maria.
Thank you, Mr. President. I asked the sponsor of the paper that's now been amended and now enrolled, is this a time-sensitive issue that we have to suspend council rules? This is probably the 6th time tonight.
Well, I don't know, when you say time, I mean, I think the challenge with a lot of these is we do get applications that have to be reviewed in a certain time frame by the state requirements. And some of these are very, I think, important to we get a lot of residential input on these, and some of these are simply as putting the 5G locations on a GISI map, putting a notice in the pole where the 5G antenna is going. So I don't think it's going to stop city business, but in the same token, I think if you're a resident within a short proximity of this, it would be important. And I think just given that it's a summer meeting, we'll try to get this out as fast as possible.
All set, Councilor Di Maria?
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, where are we?
I'll make a motion to ordain.
Push button.
Second.
Okay, so on Councilor Seeker's motion, please restate your motion, Councilor Seeker.
Motion to ordain.
Second.
And Councilor Winslow seconds that motion to ordain. The clerk will call the roll.
Kamel. Condon. Crowe. Di Maria. Linehan. Murphy. O'Malley. Seeker.
Yes.
Spatafora.
Spatafora, yes.
Winslow. Anderson.
Anderson, yes.
Papers enrolled. They're ordained.
Okay, passed by the City Council. Next order of business.
Paper 345-21, Committee Report Rules and Ordinance. Paper 264-21, be it hereby ordained by the Malden City Council that Section 2.04.010 of the revised ordinance of 2020 be stricken and the following new section, 2.040.010, be inserted in the place thereof. The May 2.04.010 hours, certain hours to be open. The mayor shall establish and may from time to time amend a regular schedule of days and hours during which administrative offices of the city will be open to the public. The mayor may temporarily alter the schedule to so establish an observance of the legal holidays or when it is deemed an open and poses a threat to the health, safety, and welfare of city employees or the public.
This is on Councilor Spatafora's motion.
To receive the committee report?
To receive the committee report.
Yep, thank you, Mr. President. After some lively debate, this was,
On Councilor,
I'm sorry,
on
I gotta wait for the vote.
Councilor
I'm sorry.
motion to receive the committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Committee report is received. Councilor.
I was
Spatafor.
channeling Council Kamel over there, he wanted to jump the gun.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. After some lively debate, this is really twofold. One is, as the pandemic is hopefully coming to an end in the governor's order in terms of the ability to do emergency hours, as well as we have been doing this wrong for several years. Our past two clerks now, Karen Anderson, actually noticed we were not following this rule for quite some time. This is just going to clean up that ordinance that gives the mayor the power to open and close and determine when City Hall should be open, similar to all the other public buildings, schools, et cetera. So we did vote this out of Ordinance Committee favorably. Looking for the full council's support. Thank you, Mr. President.
I don't see any lights, so we've got a motion to,
Second.
on the motion to pass, and seconded by Councilor Sika. Councilor O'Malley has a comment.
Yeah, I just wanted to state, I did vote in favor of this coming out of committee, and I'm not opposed to this, but I do think that something like this in terms of like changing City Hall hours and how frequently can that happen. It's currently set by ordinance, and I do think that this would warrant more public participation to find out, one, when does the public want City Hall to be open, and two, when do the employees of our city hall think that they are the most effective and most available to the residents. We did have a pretty lively discussion. There is supposedly a survey out there of the employees. Looking forward to seeing that and reviewing that. But yeah, I do think that prior to a change like this, we should do more community engagement. Just wanted to say that, not because I don't think it should pass. I think that everyone who's in favor should vote in favor of it. But I am probably going to be voting negative just because I do think more public engagement is beneficial. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Crowe.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to clarify, we had this, when we did have this conversation, this is not changing the hours of City Hall. This is giving the mayor the opportunity to engage the public, to engage the employees, and then make the decision. He's not a person, I don't think, that does things in a vacuum usually, so I know there was, like Council O'Malley just mentioned, a survey of the employees, and I'm sure he'll actually reach out to the community too. If there's a permanent change or any kind of change, that's just the kind of person he is. This is not making any changes to City Hall hours. This is just authorizing the mayor to make the changes that he sees fit based on the input that he's given.
Thank you, councilors. So we have Councilor Spatafor's motion to enroll the ordinance. We have a second to that motion? Second.
It was Sika. Councilor Sika seconded that.
If you push your button, I'll
I already did
you're
at the
already
beginning.
fired up, huh? Councilor Sika's second. Clerk will call the roll.
Kamel. Condon. Crowe.
Yes.
DeMaria. Linehan. Murphy. O'Malley. Sika. Spatafora.
Spatafor, yes.
Winslow. Anderson.
Anderson, yes. So that paper's been enrolled. Next order of business.
Paper 346-21, Committee Report, Public Properties, Paper 292-21, 293-21, and 294-21. Total 7 sites approved. The Standing Committee on Public Property, having considered Selco Exeter petitions, recommended favorably the following locations to the full council. These petitions were recommended favorably to the council at their 6/8/21 meeting. However, the below petitions were left off the original committee report. 7 Broadway, 133 Cross Street, 11 Phillip Street, 3739 Willard Street, 52 High Street, 29 Ashland Street, 84 Durso Ave, and there's another one that got left off as well, 80 Mountain Ave. Oh, 80 Mountain Ave, Paul.
On Councilor Lenahan's motion that we receive the committee report, all those in favor? All those opposed, committee report is received. Councilor Lenahan for the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. So as the city clerk stated, these have already held a public hearing and have been recommended favorably. They were inadvertently left off our last agenda. However, we do have an additional site that was left off again of this list. So on top of that, we also have some business that we met in committee to take care of earlier tonight. So I think what we need to do is suspend docket rules twice. I'm sorry. And I'm looking to the clerk to make sure that's the right way to go. But I think what we should do after we vote these is to suspend the rules to do just 80 Mountain. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. So
John Weaver's here and Steve's.
So,
right, we have a representative from the petitioner here, Attorney Weaver, as well, if anyone has questions. So I'll make a motion to approve the 7 that are listed here.
Councilor Spatafora? I'll second. All right, Councilor Linehan's motion to approve these 7, seconded by Councilor Spatafora. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Nay. We have a nay? No.
Yes, we have an A.
We're approved.
No, it's to approve the 7.
Approve the 7. Okay?
Yeah. Okay, so I'll now make a motion that we suspend docket rules so that we can vote on 80 Mountain Ave, which was also left off of this list, but has already had a public hearing and should have been recommended as part of this group.
So I'll second the motion to suspend docket rules, Mr. President.
On Councilor Linehan's motion to suspend, on Councilor Spatafora's second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Those rules are suspended.
You said nay, okay. So then I'd make a motion that we approve the petition for 80 Mountain Ave.
And do I have a second for that one? Who is that? That Councilor Winslow that second that? The clerk, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. One
Okay.
nay? Okay, that has been passed.
So last item of business is that I would once again move that we suspend docket rules to vote on the floor tonight to additional proposals that we met earlier in committee to discuss, and I'm going to look to the clerk to read the 2 addresses. I don't have them. I don't have the agenda from earlier. I know it's 2 in Ward 2. 52 Malden and 183 Highland? Yes. Okay, 52 Malden and 183 Highland.
We're going to suspend docket rules, yeah.
So there's the motion to suspend, seconded by
Councilor Spatafora, Mr. President.
all those in favor of suspension, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The rules are suspended.
And I would then move that we approve 52 Malden, the petitions for 52 Malden and 183 Highland.
Motion to approve, seconded by Councilor Seeker. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Okay.
Been approved. Next order of business.
Table papers, right?
Under executive session, paper 347-21, the city council will vote to go into executive session with legal counsel for the city council in accordance with exemption 1, Mass General Laws C-30A, 21A1, and exemption 7, Mass General Laws Chapter 30A, 21A7, to comply with or act under the authority or of any of the general specific law or federal granting requirements in order to act on pending complaint of June 21st, 2021 by Brian DeLacy against the Malden City Council under the open meeting law of Mass General Law C-30A 23B.
We'll do it afterwards, okay. Okay. So the council will vote to go into executive session. We've got a couple of lights here. Councilor Kamel.
Yeah, I know recently we made a decision to just address one of these on the floor. I think I'd like us to consider that, to just address it out here on the floor.
So.
What was it, just I mean, I'm not making the motion.
So the motion by Councilor Kamel is not to go into executive session.
I'll make the motion, sure. Second by O'Malley.
And that was been seconded by Counselor O'Malley. The clerk will call the roll.
Kamel. Yes. Condon. Condon, yes. Crow. Yes. DeMaria. Yes. Linehan. Yes. Murphy. Yes. O'Malley. Yes. Sika. Yes. Spatafora. Winslow. Anderson.
Anderson, yes. So we will discuss this item in open session, and we'll ask our city solicitor, Fallon, if she will come before us. Solicitor Fallon.
President Anderson, I do have a handout, if that's okay. I did a report and recommendation for this. I'm sorry I didn't email it to you in advance, but these two just got presented to me today and a request to work on.
Does anyone know how to put this up on the big screen? Well, just so that the audience can see.
It's
not a slide.
Hmm?
It's not a slide.
no, it's not a PowerPoint, and it's
Okay.
not something I'm actually going to read verbatim. Just in the interest of time, I think I can probably summarize rather quickly for you.
That'll be fine. Thank you.
So essentially, this is another open meeting law complaint that's been filed by Mr. Brian DeLacy, and this pertains to a privileged and confidential communication that I sent to the council. So similar to the last open meeting law complaint that Mr. DeLacy filed last week, I would ask the council to vote to authorize the legal department to respond in the very same manner. And it's basically almost verbatim recitation of addressing this complaint in the same manner as the previous complaint. The privileged communication was by way of, attorney-client communication to the council, and it was by way of advice to the council. And it was a communication back in January to the council that, and one of the numerous public records requests that are being made, apparently Mr. DeLacy received a redacted copy of the communication. And that is almost in the nature of appealing a public records request via the open meeting law process. However, very similar to the last week's complaint that Mr. DeLacy filed, he's suggesting that you as a public body violated the open meeting law by deliberating in the context of your receipt of my communication. You did not have any quorum of a meeting with regard to the communication or discuss it or deliberate about it, so we would be asking you to take a vote to just permit the legal department to respond and give the legal recitation of the open meeting law and find that there was no, in the report and recommendation, there was no violation in transmitting to you a privileged and confidential legal communication.
Thank you. Councilor O'Malley, you're the first up.
I would move that we permit the legal department to respond to the complaint in a manner consistent with this report.
Okay, we have a motion and second, but I'm going to ask you to hold. There's a few other lights that have come on. Councilor Murphy?
I was actually going to just make the same motion Councilor O'Malley made, so I'll second
Okay.
that while I have the
So
floor.
those other lights have just been dimmed or extinguished, I should say. So there's a motion before us to allow the legal department to go ahead and deal with this. And a second of that motion, clerk will call the roll.
Kamel. Condon. Crow. DeMaria. Linehan. Murphy. O'Malley. Sika. Spatafora. Winslow. Anderson.
Anderson, yes. So yes, you've been voted to. Ms. Fallon, you spend an awful lot of time on these complaints. I'm sure that as you're doing that, we're sacrificing the good work of the legal department to handle more pressing issues that are going on. I just wanted to make a point of that takes up a lot of time. Takes
Sure
up a lot of
does.
time.
Sure does.
Next order of business. Thank you. On Councilor Condon's motion, Councilor Condon,
Suspend docket rules, please.
on Councilor Condon's motion to suspend docket rules for the purposes of receiving the License Committee report. We have a second to that by Councilor Seeker. All those in favor? Aye. All opposed? One opposed. Okay, the License Committee is before us. Councilor Condon for the License Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first petition, it's hard for me to, it's so dark in here. The first petition we took up was 160, change of vehicles from 18 to 24. That would be AGM at 160, and the committee got the report, and it was unanimous that this license be granted.
Do we have a second to that? Second. Second by Councilor Seeker. And as the ward councilor, I'll say that, yeah, what the AGM has come before us with a new plot plan that they've had, asking that we increase their capacity from 18 to 24 vehicles. Our compliance inspectors have indicated there's no problem with that and no issues of compliance. And I would urge that we pass this as well. Councilor Crowe has a light on.
Nope, sorry.
Oh, okay. All those in favor of, let's do one at a time, I guess, here. All those in favor of granting the 160 Class 2 license? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. That license has been granted. On Councilor Condon's motion that we grant the outdoor license for outdoor parking. Why don't you want to speak on that, Councilor Condon?
24 cars, compliance people had no problem with it, and it unanimously passed and recommended it be granted.
And Councilor Seeker has seconded that motion. And again, that's again in my ward, and I would say that that is the right move for us to be making to allow the fuller capacity in this lot and call for the vote. So all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. That license has also been granted. Next order of business.
The committee took up the Bonzer license, vehicle license to operate in the city of Malden. Steve Winslow provided us with a lot of good information, as did the owner, but the committee felt that it should be tabled because there's still a lot of questions to be answered. So the vote was unanimous to table paper 311-21. No action.
Okay, so is there any action needed?
And we
on that?
also approved the minutes for June 15th and June 1st. No action was taken.
Okay. No action is necessary there. Councilor Seeker, did you want to say something?
I'm sorry, even though he's sitting next to me, I couldn't hear what he was saying. We're tabling Bonzer? Nothing, we're doing nothing with it? Okay,
Right.
so we're all set.
We've tabled with that.
Okay.
We're not doing anything out here. with
Okay.
that.
For some reason, my little microphone is not working when I shut my mic off, so I can't hear everybody. I apologize.
That's okay. Okay. I think we're getting ready to go into personal privilege now. And on Councilor Kamel is the first.
Thank you very much. I actually have two items. Just first, it's a quick one. Recently, we, after many decades, we've got a bit of a sidewalk on Olive Ave on the curve that was quite treacherous. That is pretty fantastic. There's also a great idea from our city engineer to kind of keep going. It wouldn't be a concrete sidewalk, it would be an asphalt sidewalk with an asphalt berm. But the bit of a trade-off is it could affect parking, so I'm trying to reach out to the people who live there. I will be having a meeting at the community room in the police station tomorrow at 5:30. So this would just be the stretch from 17 Olive Ave to right before 57 Olive Ave. So you can either go there. I'm making an attempt to do a hybrid meeting here. So you can either come in person or I'm gonna have a Zoom. Obviously, I'm not gonna rattle out the characters right now, but I will tell you my email address if you want to email me, dcamel, DCAMELL, @cityofmalden.org, to get that Zoom link. Or if you just want to give me your opinions on it and give me the input over email, that'd be good too. The second item, sorry, 2 items tonight. So this past Thursday at, 5:08 p.m., the Advocate released a digital version of a story that reports our esteemed Mystic Valley Charter School has purchased just 50,000 square feet of property in Maplewood Square, which includes 18 to 24 Lebanon Street, 28 Lebanon Street, which is the old Citizens Bank, and then on the backside, 17 Columbia. So apparently the quote from the school is that they're looking to grow their enrollment. But of course, we know that they grow their enrollment. We grow our assessment that we pay from the city of Malden that takes away from our schools, beloved businesses in our square in Maplewood Square, because there's another square in Malden, folks. In Maplewood Square would have an uncertain future. And apparently the expectation is that the residents and the taxpayers aren't going to have any input on this. So, I mean, in the city, we've got our opportunity to tell private developers how tall they can build buildings. We tell private businesses which wards they can and can't be according to zoning. We tell private cars how they can drive on our streets through the traffic commission. But apparently a taxpayer-funded entity has carte blanche to just be able to run a real estate investment firm without any input whatsoever from the public. So I'm about done with that. And what I would like to do, and I guess this would be technically going to ask to suspend the rules. Sorry, it's just the theme tonight. I don't know. So I don't know what mechanisms there are to stop this yet. I really don't know, and I do apologize. We're working as hard as we can to figure that out. I'm talking with folks at the state about what we do, what we can do. But what I know we need to do is we need to listen to what people have to say. Obviously, folks are writing and emailing, but we do want to have folks together in a public meeting to talk about what they want to see. I know the agenda is somewhat nebulous right now. I do apologize, but what I want to do is, I guess the first motion would be suspend rules to make a motion here to, do I have to suspend the docket rules before I read the motion?
Well, finish making your.
All right, so the motion would be, and I had it written down here, just to be clear, the order that the Citizen Engagement Committee of the City Council work with Councilor Kamel to arrange for a public meeting in order to hear from our constituents about the future of Maplewood Square in light of recent news of Mystic Valley Charter School's purchase of significant property in that area.
So it is your intent, your
intent.
hope that you get the support of the council this evening to
And I will
vote
say,
on moving this to a committee for the public to have input in that.
Yeah, and I would say just one more. I would like to. I'm extending the invitation for this body to be part of this process. Vote how you will tonight. I'm going to have a meeting one way or the other. This is going to happen. So I would really like it to be in the context of this body from an official standpoint, so we can stand together with this. And I'm asking for your support. Thank you.
Okay, so on Councilor Kamel's motion that we suspend docket rules for the purposes of him putting this motion before us. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. The rules are suspended. On Councilor Kamel's motion that we refer to the Citizen Engagement Committee, a paper that would have the essence of having a community meeting, and would ask the Citizen Engagement Committee to speak on that. So I'll second it. We have that seconded. Now we've got a bunch of lights. So let's start with Councilor Crowe. I see there's a bunch of lights here that were people that were asking for personal privilege. Before we go to the rest of the personal privilege, folks, can I ask anyone else who wishes to speak on the motion that's before us? Councilor DiMaria. Let me get you fired up here, Councilor DiMaria. Go right
Thank
ahead.
you. Thank you,
As
Mr.
the chair of the committee, Councilor DiMaria.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you to the Ward 6 City Councilor, Councilor Mikeneil. That was very important for our citizens to be heard. I certainly will take this charge, and we will work on this over the summer, and in the fall, we will bring a report back. I would just like to ask that as we move forward, Ward Councilor, that the administration also be part of this, and we work together to allow the citizens to speak, and I think that's very important. So I will accept that charge, and thank you.
Thank you. Who else wants to speak on this issue? Councilor O'Malley?
I am also in support of this, and I just want to explain my support for suspending the rules for this particular matter. This is not final action. This is the start of the action, and it's the start of referring it to a committee where we can actually start hearing what our community has to say. I think this is a perfect reason to suspend rules, and I am fully in support.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Winslow.
Yeah, as a Maplewood resident and who enjoys the square very often and hearing from so many neighbors, both in person and social media, this is a really important issue for our neighborhood. And it's important that the residents of Maplewood have input in the future of Maplewood Square, and to think of some actions that could basically, affect a quarter of the square without having public input, and is just unacceptable. So definitely supportive of Councilor Mikeneil here, and will fully participate in this. And it's important that the Maplewood residents help plan the future of their neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Sika.
Oh, we have personal privilege?
No, we're still talking about. Anyone else?
Sorry.
Anyone else wishing to speak on this issue? Okay, so on the motion that's before us, that this get referred to the Citizen Engagement Committee, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. That'll be referred to the Citizen Engagement Committee.
Thank you.
Now, let's go back. I will apologize to you all for having lost the order in which you all have asked for personal privilege. So those who want personal privilege, would you please fire me up here? Okay. Councilor O'Malley,
I'm already fired up.
You already fired up?
I'll defer to Councilor Crowe.
Councilor Crowe, you've been deferred to.
Thank you, Mr. President.
You have been deferred to.
I appreciate that. So on a much lighter note than Councilor Mikeneil's, there are a couple of things, going on. Actually, tomorrow, it starts off tomorrow with the return of a great Malden tradition at the Malden Public Library at 6 o'clock. We'll re-experience the events in Malden that led to the drafting of the instructions of the inhabitants of Malden, Massachusetts, to their representatives to Congress, Malden's declaration of support for the American independence. And so when they read those instructions, they really created a strong past and a proud future. So we all know that people dress up in period outfits. If you would like to participate in that, you can reach out to Ron Cochran. I'm sure they're looking for a few more people to dress up in some period costumes. And there's always music, and it really is an inspiring time to kick off our Independence weekend. And so since we cannot have the traditional 4th of July events this year, unfortunately, we will still be, Ward 1 and Ward 2 will still be hosting half of our, what I call our 4th of July extravaganza. We will be hosting the family movie night. This year we'll really have, from 6 to 8, we'll have family game night. We've included pony rides. We have some inflatable arcade games and some oversized family games that we really think people will enjoy. And then at sundown, we will, as I always say, feast on some popcorn and enjoy a family movie together. Distant. So I hope everyone can come down. Ward 1 and Ward 2 will be hosting their family movie night at Green Street Park on the corner of Wadsworth and Green Street. So I hope everyone comes down around 6 o'clock on Saturday night. It's going to be a cool night, and we'll look forward to seeing you there, and happy Independence Day.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Murphy.
Oh, thank you. I didn't realize it was right after Councilor Crowe. Well, I guess this goes right after Councilor Crowe because, like Councilor Crowe, Ward 5 is also having a movie night. And we also have ponies and interactive games. We kind of have partnered up on this. We also will be showing the same movie. So if you're on the one east side or the west side of town, you have your choice of where you want to go, but the movie is the same. It does start at Forest Hill Park at 6 o'clock for a family game night, with the movie starting at sunset, which is around 8:25. So we will also have popcorn, the smell of hot popcorn, buttered popcorn, as well as water. Encourage people to bring a chair, blanket, picnic lunch, picnic dinner, and just come down and have fun, let the kids run around and have a good time. We've tried to really craft this so there's no inflatables where, you know, children will be in a house together. Everything is outside in the fresh air, and we think it'll be a really great night for everybody. So I hope to see you either at MacArthur Park, aka Green Street Park, or the Alex Gentili Memorial Park, aka Forest Hill Park, so on Saturday evening. Thank you. I want to wish everybody a happy Independence Day.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Winslow.
Definitely want to wish everybody a happy Independence Day. So in Ward 6, there will be a movie night hosted by school committee member Joe Gray and friends at 8 o'clock. So everybody can come down to Trafton Park. And before that, I'm sure everybody can come down the playground that was built with community preservation funds that Councilor Kamel and I worked on has been a huge success. So people can come down and enjoy that and then enjoy the movie. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor DiMaria.
Thank you. I'm going to just make it short. Thank you, Council President. It's been a very busy season for the City Council. I know I was counting suspended council rules 12 times this evening, but I think just to share with the people that are watching and the residents here, it's because it's our last meeting and a lot of these things were time sensitive. I know that we've cautioned each other many times to not go down that path, but I think the majority of these were valid, and that is the reason why we did do that tonight. And from my family to yours, I wish you all a very happy and safe Independence Day and summer. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor O'Malley.
Thank you, Chair. Again, wishing everyone a happy Independence Day. I do want to remind Malden residents that if you have received your COVID-19 vaccine, July 1st, you can start entering the COVID lottery to win $1 million here in Massachusetts. Don't forget to do that. It would be really great if a Malden resident wins that $1 million. July 3rd, I have spoken to the counselor from Ward 2 and Ward 1, and I'm sure the councilors from Ward 5 and 6 would also be willing to host some Ward 4 residents that are looking for a movie. You heard all of the great places you can check them out. You know, why reinvent the wheel if they're doing it perfectly? I do want to say something to the residents who live in any Carabetta properties in Malden. That's the Malden Gardens, 36 Dartmouth Street, 99 Florence Street. We are aware that your landlord is not taking care of your rights as tenants. The mayor's office and myself, as well as the fire department and the police department and the building department, will be having an emergency meeting to discuss what's going on there. It is not right that your elevators do not work frequently. It is not right that you have a lot of infestations in your building. It is not right that they are not turning on your AC. We are on top of it, and we are going to make sure that we work with the state, the Department of Public Health, and every other resource that we have available. Thank you.
I don't see any further lights Councilor Spatafora.
Hit the button. You got me gun shy with the button.
I will.
I just want to thank, briefly, as all my colleagues have said, happy 4th of July, happy Independence Day. I think this year, hopefully as we come out of the last couple of years, it's good to get outside, even though we're not going to have all the festivities. It's something I think it's, anytime you can celebrate outside with your family and without wearing a mask, it's important, I think. Having a little bit of independence this year probably means a little bit more than all of us, so happy Independence Day, and I look forward to visiting a couple of the parks this year where the movies are played and visiting Council Seeker, some of her events. So again, happy 4th of July and Independence Day for the residents of Malden.
Thank you, Councilor. From the chair, let me say that in Ward 7, the folks at Suffolk Manor, the Malden Housing Authority activity, are planning something for Monday, the 5th of July, and they have invited each of us, if you'd like to come down and have something, a little libation perhaps, and a little something to eat. They've also, I think they're reaching out to the candidates for public office. Those of you who are running for office this year, I think the people there at Suffolk Manor would welcome seeing you coming down there. I'm not sure, Michelle, maybe you can tell me, do you remember what time that is to start? At 1 o'clock on Monday the 5th? It's there at 300 Bryant Street, so candidates, you're certainly welcome to come and meet the folks at Suffolk Manor, and for the rest of the council, you all are welcome to be there. We've come back into in-person sessions, and I want to thank you councilors for how we have interacted with one another. I think we all found that being on Zoom, it was certainly convenient to stay home and not have to get dressed and get ready to leave home to come to these meetings. But I think that having these meetings in person for us to interact with one another and having 2 or 3 of the subcommittee meetings going on here at City Hall has all been good for us as representatives of our government and for the citizens of Malden, and so I thank you for all that. And with that, I'm going to ask someone to make a motion to recess. And just for the public's information, if we adjourn, then if there was something that comes up that the mayor wants to call us back into session, the mayor has the prerogative of doing that. If we recess at the call of the council president. So on Councilor Crow's motion that we recess, Councilor Seeker seconded that recess motion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. We are in recess. And councilors and for the audience, I hope you all have a wonderful summer, and we'll look forward to seeing you again in September. For the Citizen Engagement Committee, you all will be meeting on issues. Good night.